Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at top 10 deaths that pissed off horror fans. It took me a minute to say that, I don't know why. Yeah, top 10 deaths that pissed off horror fans. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if there's any deaths that are not in here that did piss you off a little bit because it was one of your favourite characters, or it was just, why would you do that? Leave it in the comments below, I'd like to know. So let's get straight into this video.
Horror movies want to scare you, move you, and yes, sometimes even annoy you. And there's nothing that can instantly get fans in a rage more than the death.
Said subscribe them, make sure you don't subscribe to them, subscribe to me. You may want to subscribe to them. What Culture Horror is a good channel to watch. Also, subscribe to me.
Of a beloved character. Unsurprisingly, horror directors know this all too well, but not all of the following deaths got people's blood boiling for the right reasons. With that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 horror movie deaths that pissed off fans. Number 10, Laurie Strode, The Halloween series. When it comes to discussing fans being pissed off by Laurie Strode's...
Yeah, this one was so stupid. I mean, come on, they put her in the poster to say that she was going to be in the film. And you thought, if you saw the poster, you'd think, oh, she's in the whole movie. Like she's with every other one. No. Resurrection was just annoying.
Death in the Halloween franchise, there's only one.
I know I keep pausing it. That's the last time I'm going to pause it. Maybe. I do have my ranking list of the Halloween movies. I believe of the Halloween movies. So if you want to go and watch that, and you can see where I put Resurrection.
One question to ask. Which one do you mean? This franchise has been rebooted and soft rebooted so many times now that Laurie Strode has actually died twice in canon. Though this timeline was eliminated with 2018's Legacy sequel, and both of them were extremely disappointing ends for the iconic Scream Queen. After deciding to call it quits following the second movie, actress Jamie Lee Curtis refused to return for the next Michael Myers starring installment, Halloween 4. As a result, it's explained that Laurie died in a random car crash. That's it, that's all you get. What an insulting and seemingly nasty way to kill a character between movies that everyone loved.
I think a lot of films do that.
This was eventually retconned when Laurie returned to the franchise for Halloween H2O, but it wasn't long before she was killed yet again in the opening of Halloween Resurrection. Here, Michael tracks her down to a mental hospital, and in an extremely dumb moment, Laurie allows her then brother to get the upper hand and kill her before the first act even really kicks into gear. Fortunately, all of this has been retconned again with Halloween and Halloween Kills, so let's hope that if she doesn't make it
better movies in my eyes,
Halloween Ends, she'll at least get to die with dignity this time. Number 9, Dick Hallorann, The Shining. There are many differences between The Shining book and its film counterpart. However, one of the most annoying ones is the change made to Dick Hallorann, the kindly older man who informs young Danny about his supernatural abilities. He's one of the few forces of good in the story, and after being telepathically connected by Danny after Danny's father...
In all fairness, this one didn't bother me that much.
Jack goes nuts and starts chasing the family down with an axe. He sets off to the Overlook Hotel in order to save the day. Annoyingly though, shortly after his anticipated arrival, Dick is axed in the chest and killed by Jack. His only contribution to Wendy and Danny's success was ultimately dying and leaving his vehicle for them to escape in. Cool. Number 8, Elizabeth Shaw, Alien Covenant. Say what you will about the two Alien prequels, but they at least had amazing main characters to root for. Prometheus's Elizabeth Shaw, played by Mimi Rapace, was the particular standout. Headstrong, capable, and put through the...
Yet again, it's another one that I didn't really care about anyway, because, let's be honest, she ain't no Ripley.
Ringer, thanks to some alien beasties, Shaw was a true successor to franchise staple Ellen Ripley. So, when Prometheus ended with Shaw as the only human survivor, heading even further into the cosmos for answers about the villainous engineers, fans, including myself, were excited to see where her journey would take her. The eventual answer? Well, 6 feet under. In a huge course correction to answer some of the criticisms labelled at the first prequel, Ridley Scott and his writers discarded so much of Prometheus's narrative setups for sequel Alien Covenant, and threw the baby out with the bathwater by killing off Shaw in between movies. In the follow-up, it's revealed that android David turned on his unlikely partner and then experimented on her, with Shaw's corpse turning up in his twisted lab. It's another case of a character's full potential being wasted, not to mention an actor's talents, as well as Ridley Scott's lack of confidence in the world he established with Prometheus. Number 7. Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, promised to end the franchise on a high. That sequel saw series villain Jason Voorhees supposedly killed for good. But with the horror flicks continuing to make big bank, the studio wasn't going to let something as small as the death of the main bad guy stop them from pumping out new installments. So along came Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, which seemingly saw Jason return, albeit with a slightly different hockey mask. However, the finale revealed that, surprise, Jason was actually still dead, and this time the killer was a copycat, a disgruntled paramedic called Roy. Despite sticking to their guns and keeping Voorhees dead, this revelation actually only pissed more people off than if they brought the villain back in some ludicrous way. Having the Jason attire being something that other characters would just adopt didn't sit well with fans. Roy was swiftly killed, and the ending implied that Tommy Jarvis, who originally killed Jason, had gone mad and followed in his footsteps.
Yeah, that was stupid.
It didn't work, and the studio swiftly swept this under the rug and pretended it didn't happen with a Voorhees-led follow-up. Number 6, Leon S. Kennedy, Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. It's no secret that Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil series wasted pretty much every single video game character. Here, the focus was well and truly on the newly crafted hero Alice. One from the games was just set dressing, picked up and dropped whenever the writer could be bothered to include them. None, however, were as misused as Leon S. Kennedy. One of the most iconic characters from the video game series, fans had pined to see Leon show up in the movies for years, and finally got their wish by the time the 5th film, subtitled Retribution, came around. Of course, just because he was a beloved fan favorite didn't mean that he was treated any better by the script, as Leon spent much of the movie as a background character. Still, he was finally there, and the cliffhanger ending, which saw Leon, Alice, and a bunch of other survivors launching a last-ditch defense against the undead at the White House, promised bigger things for him in the sequel. That was, anyway, until he was killed off screen in between those sequels.
Advert.
See, the next movie, The Final Chapter, picks up in the aftermath of this cliffhanger fight, with Leon already dead, and he's never mentioned again. Number 5, Helen Shivers, I Know What You Did Last Summer. A lot of the entries on this list
Not really, because she has
for
stupid
all
death
the wrong
anyway.
reasons. But Helen Shivers' demise in I Know What You Did Last Summer was intentionally executed to leave audiences screaming at the screen. And that's because the extended chase with Shivers and the killer, one of the best staged and most exciting in the whole film, ends with the character literally inches away from escape. Having eluded her assailant, Helen, limping but still with an advantage, stumbles down an alley to escape into a crowd of people. However, when she's less than 10 feet from joining the crowd in claiming victory, she unfathomably stops, turns around, and spends precious moments checking to see if the killer is actually still chasing her. Obviously, that time is all it takes for the slasher to sneak behind her for a jump scare, cutting her victory short. It's an infuriating moment that leaves you swearing at the screen, yelling, "What are you doing? Just keep going!"
Yep.
Number 4, Becky Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. The titular Henry in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, yep, that's our What Culture contractually obliged titular that we have to get into every script, is not a good dude. He is, quite literally, a serial killer after all, and we spend the entirety of this grimy horror following his seedy actions as he moves from one victim to the next. However, in the tiered list of bad dudes, it's actually his mate Otis who ranks slightly higher than him. Henry has a warped relationship with his sister Becky, a traumatized young woman who suffered heavy abuse at the hands of her father while growing up. She stays with Henry, though Otis has no qualms about trying to kill her once Henry is out of sight. So, the final reel of the film focuses on Henry saving Becky from Otis and her attempting to reconnect with her estranged daughter. However, after the siblings spend the night at a hotel, Becky is nowhere to be seen, and Henry drives off before presumably dumping her body further down the road. Now, we definitely shouldn't have expected more from a deranged serial killer, but Becky's death after so much trauma, at the hands of Henry no less, is a gut punch that leaves you fuming. Number 3, Dewey, Scream 2022.
Yes, this pissed me
In the
off.
Scream franchise, Randy has always been the one death that ticked off fans. The walking encyclopedia
In all fairness, though, it was about time they killed one of the main three. Because there is 5 films and it makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, it pissed me off that it had to be doing it. It could have been Gale, to be honest.
Wikipedia of horror knowledge was killed off way too soon, and fans have raged about it for decades. Thanks to the release of the most recent sequel, simply titled Scream, though, there's now another death that rivals Randy's rage-inducing offing, and that's Dewey. Now, Dewey dying isn't inherently a bad idea. The whole joke of this character, after all, is that he's lucky to be alive, having been stabbed and left for dead so many times throughout the series. Well, the issue is that Dewey dies because of a writing contrivance rather than anything believable. After fighting off Ghostface and saving some would-be victims in a hospital, Dewey puts the survivors in an elevator and then steps out. He tells them that you've got to shoot the bad guy in the head, and so goes alone after being injured to the incapacitated Ghostface to finish the job. Not only is what comes next extremely predictable, it's just dumb on Dewey's part. Number 2, Detective Kerry, Saw 3. The Saw series isn't packed with too many characters that you genuinely root for, but Detective Kerry was
As a horror fan, I do not like the Saw films. I think they are terrible.
Definitely part of the select few. Showing up in the first 2 movies on the hunt for the villainous Jigsaw, Allison Kerry finally finds herself in his sights as the victim of the opening trap in Saw 3, and this one was particularly brutal as well. In order to unlock the shackles dug into her ribs that would tear her body apart once the timer ticked down, Kerry is forced to fish out a key from a tub full of acid right next to her. Being a strong-willed cop though, Kerry actually rises to the challenge and manages to win Jigsaw's game. Only, unfortunately for her, it turns out that this isn't Jigsaw's game at all. Instead, his apprentice Amanda has orchestrated this trap and actually made it unwinnable. Kerry never stood a chance whether she won or not, and is subsequently brutally killed. This though is another one that pissed people off for the right reasons. Amanda wasn't playing fair, and Kerry paid the price. Number 1, Whistler, Blade Trinity. The first 2 Blade movies kick so much ass. One of the best presences in both flicks is Chris Christopherson's Whistler, the aging vampire hunter who supports Blade on his evil slaying mission. In one of the most tragic moments in the original movie, Whistler is killed at the hands, or I guess fangs, of a bunch of vamps. However, that didn't stop him because he is great, as I've mentioned, and the grizzled character is brought back from the dead for the sequel. Which makes it all the more insulting when he's quickly dispatched again in the dreadful Blade Trinity. Now, killing Whistler again would be fine, but after this rollercoaster ride, the way he's dispatched makes him feel like an afterthought, an element the writers just wanted rid of. He gets a last stand at least, but it all feels hollow. Whistler and the entire Blade franchise deserved so much more than this mess. So, that's our list. I want to know what you guys think about these deaths down in the comments below, and are there any interesting ones I missed off here? While you're down there as well, can you please...
Yeah. There probably is a few that he's missed off there, because I know there's a lot more deaths that have pissed people off. None that I can think of at the moment. None that really come to mind, but there's probably way more. As I say, if you can think of one, put it down in the comment, because I want to know if it did piss me off as well. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and peace.